Hey there, how are you doing? It's the 4th of June 2026. It's me by birth, Alex William Smith, better known to many of you as Jonathan Royal, hypnotist and mind magician, and I'm the current Public Relations Officer and Entertainments Officer for the Order of the Magi, Manchester's Magic Club and Magical Society for Magicians, Mind Readers and the Allied Arts. And I'd just like to tell you a little bit about our magazine, the history of it, the Magi magazine, which has been published since October 1909. Also a little bit about our private members Facebook group, where a whole bunch of valuable resources get put for members, fully paid up members, and a little bit about what's going on with the club and why you'd be wise to go and check out orderofthemagi.co.uk. Check out the links above or below this video. And yes, there is an Order of the Magi members only group which you can join on Facebook, join in the discussion and get access to the files section. There is an ever-growing resource of free stuff in the files section of the Order of the Magi Facebook members only group. Tons of stuff free of charge to members. Our recent comedy and cruise ship cabaret lecturer Graham Hay gave us several books on comedy, magic and mentalism and asked me to put them in the files section of the Facebook group, so they're there for members. Our lecturer for Tuesday the 9th of June, Ian Rowland, the legend of magic and mentalism, has given us a few PDFs, including his Magic Circle lecture notes, which is full of magic and mentalism material, so check them out, and you'll see the links as well to his website where you can go and check out his other materials and such like. Inside the Facebook Order of the Magi members only group, you will find a featured section at the top, and one of the things worth having a look at is from the 7th of May, the Magi magazine, Documented Facts and History. One of the recent posts on the orderofthemagi.co.uk website is called The Mystery of the Missing Magi Volume, Correcting the Numbering of the Magi magazine. And that's an interesting video. I'll put the article rather. I'll put the link to it in above or below this video on YouTube, on the Order of the Magi's YouTube account, for anyone who wants to go and seek it out there. It's a very interesting history of the magazine and how we've just raised the volume number 1 year because of discovering an error. That article concluded that the Order of the Magi's The Magi magazine was first published in May 1910, whereas evidence that I've now found in my birth name, Alex William Smith, and you can see in the featured section of the Order of the Magi members only group, shows in fact that new evidence says we published the Magi from October 1909, and we actually published a prospectus from around May-June 1909. You see, I went and obtained old copies of the Wizard magazine, which on the front page they featured when the Order of the Magi was first formed in March 1909. In the September edition of the 1909 Wizard magazine, this bit appears saying that the Manchester Magical Society is producing a paper of its own. Good luck to it. There is plenty of room for several more. We're having considerably enlarged our office bookcase. Nowadays it takes a man of wealth and a ferocious literary appetite to keep fully abreast of the times in wizardry. That's the Wizard magazine reporting in September 1909 that the Magi is going to publish its own magazine. Clearly the Magi had notified them, otherwise they wouldn't have published that. Later, in that same September 1909 edition of the Wizard magazine, is the Order of the Magi's own, I'm going to call it column, but the corresponding secretary for the Magi has written in and given details which were obviously sent in to be able to be published in the September edition, so probably sent in August. So in other words, the Magi people knew, as it says here, an open meeting was held at the headquarters on Thursday, the August the 12th. So it was sent to the Wizard magazine after that meeting. And as you can see to the bottom, the publication of a monthly paper is now in progress and the first number will appear in October, meaning the following month. But he was writing this in August when he sent it to the magazine, who published it in September 1909, hence the way the language is, where it says the monthly paper is now in progress and the first number will appear in October. Also, as can be seen by the evidence that's inside the files section of the Facebook Order of the Magi members group, the Wizard magazine published stuff in 1910 making reference to the fact that in August 1910 they make reference to the 4th issue of the Magi magazine. Now, at first sight, read it on its own, you might go, well, fine, if it started publishing in May 1910, that would be May, June, July, August. August would be the 4th issue of the magazine. And it sounds like it's saying that's the 4th issue, but that's on its own. If you put it in context with the previous publications from 1909 in the Wizard magazine, okay, it becomes clear that they're just talking about the 4th issue of 1910, meaning that the Magi magazine had already been published previously. Further, it is my contention that the fact that they do a write-up of the 1910 AGM, Magi AGM, and make reference of who's been appointed to become the editor of the Magi magazine, and there's no mention that there's been a decision to call their magazine the Magi, or that the magazine was delayed, because remember, the Wizard reported that they'd been told by the Magi they were going to publish, and that was reported in the September 1909 edition of the magazine, that they would start in October. And the Magi itself reported in the 1909 September edition that they would start their paper from October 1909. So that's October, November, December, January, February, March, April. Don't you think if there had been a delay, so it's supposed to happen in October, well, I say until there's evidence to the contrary that it did happen in October 1909, that October, November, December, January, February, March, April. If May 1910 was the first edition, why, over those 7 months of October, November, December 1909, and January, February, March, April 1910, did the Wizard magazine never mention any delay or issue, or the fact that the promised paper from the Order of the Magi never appeared? Doesn't make sense, does it? And why did the Magi not mention it in their own column? Why there was a delay? It doesn't make sense. The only thing that actually makes sense is, okay, based on the evidence we currently now have, is that indeed a paper, as they called it, was published from October 1909, October, November, December, January, February, March, April, and that either, well, bottom line is that when it got to the AGM, I think they officially elected the person into the role as editor, and it's my assertion that at that time they went, right, now we've got an editor and it's all kind of official, we'll start referring to it as a magazine rather than a paper, and they went, right, and when they did publish the first magazine as such, May 1910, as the evidence seems to suggest in that regard, that with an editor's name on it. The ones prior to that, it would seem, would not have had an editor's name. They were just being what held. It wasn't fully official because they'd not had an AGM. That they called that Volume 1. Whereas in truth, I think it's quite fair to state, based on the evidence that's now available, that the Order of the Magi, which was founded in March 1909, that is provable. The history page on orderofthemagi.co.uk clearly has the evidence of that. And it's reported in the Wizard magazine itself on the front page that that's when they were formulated, okay? Is that the evidence now of the Wizard magazine, both from the Wizard magazine and the Magi's own column in the September edition 1909, states that the first copy would be out in October. Now, the fact is they had to submit that in August 1909 for it to appear in the September 1909 magazine. So they were already making progress. These people also, as documented by the Wizard magazine, were publishing a prospectus promoting the club from around May, June 1909. That's mentioned multiple times in the Wizard magazine and also in the adverts run by the Magi to attract new members. It says, contact us for the prospectus to be sent to you. So we know that they knew people who could do printing. They had the financial capability to do it. And given that they knew that other magic clubs have magazines, it seems beyond any form of logic that they would notify the Wizard magazine they were going to start publishing in October 1909. And that the Wizard magazine would report on such. And then, if there'd been a delay of October, November, December, January, February, March, April, until May 1910, it's inconceivable to me that the Wizard magazine would not have reported on that, and or that the Magi wouldn't have mentioned such in their own columns within the Wizard magazine. It seems far more realistic and logical to me that they did actually produce from October 1909, meaning the Order of the Magi's magazine was first published in October 1909 as far as I'm concerned, and the evidence suggests strongly is the case until evidence is produced to say otherwise. Seriously, the Wizard reports that the paper will be released soon by the Order of the Magi in the September 1909 edition. The Magi in their own column in the September 1909 edition state that the first copy of the paper publication, call it what you will appear in October 1909. And at no time after that, at no point during October, November, December, January, February, March, April, or indeed any time after that, did the Wizard magazine itself or the Order of the Magi ever make mention of any delay in producing the paper. The next mention of it is actually in May, June, July, in August 1910, when it makes mention of issue 4. Well, that would be factually correct if May 1910 they decided the Magi would be issue 1 of that year, after having elected somebody to be the editor of the magazine at the AGM in 1910, where the way it's written up in the Wizard magazine is as though the Magi magazine already existed, which when you look at it in conjunction with what went before and the fact that there's no reports on there being any delays until evidence comes to light otherwise, I'm delighted to say it looks like the evidence says that the first edition was published in October 1909. But even if that wasn't the case, well, May 1910 still would make the Order of the Magi magazine one of the oldest magical publications in the world that's never missed an issue since publication, which members get every month sent to their email inbox, and also it gets uploaded to the files section of the Order of the Magi's Facebook group. And in there, there's great material from myself on mentalism and magic and marketing, the material from Andrew Normansell, the true wizard of card magic, close-up stage and cabaret magic, and also he puts articles in there on bizarre magic and other stuff. And indeed, other members contribute stuff. There's stuff for all tastes. It's worth being a member just for what's in the magazine alone, despite the fact that we also have an action-packed calendar of events, as you can see at orderofthemagi.co.uk. So go and check that out. Join us today.